It's a really good question about mixing, because I think our tendency is to think I need half of one and half of the other. And that is not actually how mixing works effectively. It depends on what you're trying to mix. So we're going to talk about complementary colors and mixing, right? Shadows. And so if you're like painting, for example, a red apple, and you want to mix the shadow for that, the complement of red is green. So you're going to take a tiny bit of green and mix it into your red. If you're mixing a green apple, you're going to take a tiny bit of red and put it into your green, create the shadow. You got me? So little tiny bits at a time. And it may be also, and I think it's easier to mix with a brush, but then the problem is the brush gets muddy and murky. So you just want to make sure you've got, have yourself a blankie, a little cloth, you can squeeze things, and make sure you're cleaning your brush pretty thoroughly between mixes. So that's like the basic idea of that. Francesca, it's nice to see you again. Did you just decide you couldn't get enough?
Exactly. But yeah, I will try again in acrylic. Okay, I don't have oil colors.
That's totally fine. This lesson goes fine in acrylic as well as oil. And I might even, I'm going to prepare for the idea I might do both at some point or another. So, but let's start with the basics. There you are. All right. So if you're working in oil paint, you're going to need, if you're working in acrylic, you just need your paint, a clean cup of water. You're going to want a brush that's not exactly small, not tiny and pokey, that's maybe flat and has a little bit of space. I'll review that in a second. And you're going to need a palette. This is palette paper. You're going to need someplace to put your paint. I'm going to talk to you about organizing it so it's easier to mix. And you're going to need canvas and a pencil. If you're working in oil, you're going to need a bit of Gamsol to start on your base, and perhaps a little bit of Galkid in a separate jar to make your brush go like get it a little bit wet on the other layers. Galkid, Gamsol is it's a oil, it's a solvent, it's a alcohol solvent. But this one has no fumes or anything, so it's basically not toxic. Galkid is like a non-toxic mix that's a little bit like linseed oil. It helps things dry faster, so it's one of the reasons I like to use it. It's got a kind of honey consistent, Galkid light, really. Well, this is Galkid, but it's got kind of a honey consistency. And you'll want a different jar for each of those. So I have a little bit of Gamsol, but well, yes, I'll take a little bit of Gamsol.
Are you talking about like a jar that you would stick your brush in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You can contain it, right? You can't
that you would pour
like this. So you need to put it in a little jar. Here's my little jar. And here, let me pop this up. Hi, Diana.
Hello.
Double dipping today, eh? Yeah, I know you've already been in class with Leto.
Yeah, but I missed a lot of that class because my handyman here and I had to go shopping, and I'm going to have to leave in 5 minutes, but I will be back.
Wonderful. Okay, so here is a little bit of Gamsol. The acrylic equivalent is like a jar with some water in it. We might actually experience putting the Galkid right on the paper. And then definitely you're going to want something to kind of clean out your brush between sessions. And come on, don't get, there we go. So we're going to start with a very basic exercise. I'd like you to take, you're working with a palette, you know, a clean palette. I want you at the top of the page. This is the problem with oil. Are you really going to do that? No, you bastard. It's so look at that. It's so oily. I'm just like, hey.
What do you expect on parchment paper?
It's not parchment paper. It's just that my desk is at an angle.
Oh, yeah, I know. I know it is.
Yeah. So anyway, there's my yellow. I want you to take
what kind of yellow?
Huh? You can play around.
Okay.
one. I'm not gonna like be bossy about it. Later, you'll probably have it. Here's a red. So mine is cadmium yellow. This is quinacridone red. And what's the next thing I'm gonna do, guys? What's the next thing I'm gonna put up there? Who knows?
White.
Nope. Nope.
Blue.
Thank you. Okay, and notice I have got so this is cadmium yellow, quinacridone red, and ultramarine blue. Now, if this was flat, here, hold on, I think it's now sticking, so maybe I can like just wipe off some of this. The idea of putting these at the top of the page is that as you're pulling them down, you can take little pieces of the pile to mix. So it's a very good way of organizing your palette rather than just kind of throwing stuff up randomly. So I like to, I mean, when I'm in a rush, I will just throw things on there and then I kind of run out of space really quickly. But when I have time, I like to organize my paints at the top of the page. You'll probably have more than one yellow, more than one red, more than one blue. For the purpose of this exercise, you can start with anything you want. In terms of brushes, I am going to start with a fairly big brush. What I don't want to see you use is something this size on the right. And I don't think, like a little pointy brush isn't very helpful either for this exercise. We're going to be kind of working in broad strokes. So flat, bigger is better. You may not have something quite this big. Oh, you're not liking that. It doesn't know what to focus on. That's why he's like, I'm so confused. I don't know what to focus on. All right. So these three colors, who knows what these three colors are?
Primary colors?
Yep, they're the primary colors. They are the colors upon which you mix everything. Now we know that there's more than one yellow and there's more than one blue. If you are, let's see, if you are working with acrylic, go ahead and dip your brush in the water, clean it out. I am working with Gamsol, so this is Gamsol. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow, put it up here like this. Now, here you go, Scarlett, this is what you were asking. I'm going to mix, I'm going to pull out, since I'm using the same brush, I'm making sure I'm pulling out all of that yellow. See how I just went back in there a few times and did that? And then just to make very sure I got it, I take my blankie and I squeeze it. So now I have a clean brush again. And I can go in, get my brush a little bit wet, take my red. So I want you to set up kind of a triangle with space in between. Everything is drippy. This is my challenge today. Now I'm cleaning out my brush again, squeezing it out again. And my last color is just a blue. So I'm working on a little tiny piece of canvas. If you're working with acrylic, you could work on, canvas paper, or even like some watercolor papers might work for this. The techniques that we're practicing are not really watercolor techniques though. So this is definitely something you want to do with oil or acrylic. Similar. You might notice, Francesca, a little bit of a difference between what happened on Thursday and what's going to happen today, because oil doesn't dry as fast. So my technique may change a little bit, but it doesn't have to for yours. Okay, so once you've done that, just very lightly, here, I'll take a picture. I know it's pretty easy to see, but, oh, I don't know, Pat, I think he's kind of done. But we'll talk about it after this.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think he's done. So you want to start with this. So these are the primaries. And then my question to you is, what do we get when we mix red and yellow? Orange, yay. So let's do a little bit of that. Now that's good, you got it, right? It's good to remember. So we take a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow. Now notice, Scarlett, I'm so glad you asked this question. I'm going to be like, this question about mixing. Notice just a tiny bit of red really dominated that yellow. Red is a very dominating color. So I'm actually coming down here with the kind of little remainder of the red to create my orange. because my first attempt. So there we go, there's orange. And I want you to put it between the yellow and the red.
Pretty.
Mhm. I know, it's like these little simple things, right? Like just simple technique stuff.
Well, I don't, part of what I was asking is that, like, I guess I'm like trying not to waste paint. So
Oh,
like,
don't go there. Just
well,
Yeah.
right.
Trust
So,
me, you don't want to go there.
like,
I went
when
there
I've
for 2
mixed
years.
colors before, I'm like getting the right color, but then I maybe don't have enough, or
Sure.
it like gets all kind of spread out when I mix it.
Well,
and
when it gets
so then
spread
it
out,
feels like
that's
it
not
dries
helpful. Right. When it gets spread out, it's not helpful. Also, it dries fast, so you can't really use it. So it's smaller amounts, but the key is if you take half of one and half of the other, one color will usually dominate. And if you've got more than one color going on, two and eventually three, as you'll see from this exercise, you'll just get gray and mud if you're not balancing more carefully. So you want to be thinking about what, so in this particular case, I'm just saying it takes a tiny bit of red in yellow to create orange. It's not half red, half yellow. If I do half red and half yellow, it just looks red.
And know that the objective is not to get the exact same color twice,
Every
because
time.
then it gets flat.
Yeah.
So you want variations in the color you're mixing.
Exactly. And then what do we get when we mix yellow and blue? Anybody?
Green.
Turquoise?
Green?
purple.
Yellow and blue is green.
Yellow and blue is green.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who said purple?
I did. I'm totally having trouble like auditorily processing.
Oh, okay, there you go. You
Like-
were just looking down here. No, I get it. All right. So I used a little bit of yellow. Oh, no, a lot of yellow and a tiny bit of green to make this green. You know, maybe I'll put a little bit more blue in there. Sorry, a tiny bit of blue to make this green. There we go. Put it between the yellow and the blue. And one of the things I want you guys to see already that's nice about this organization is that I still have access to my yellow that hasn't been mixed with other colors, right? So I can keep kind of pulling down and getting more mixes. Actually, this was one of the most profound things. I took a class at the Art Students League of New York. This is how the teacher had her palette organized. It was so helpful. You can get so much more space out of this palette if you're kind of pulling, you're working from the corners and pulling down. And then of course, the last one is purple. So this is a tricky one.
I'm gonna leave you for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I'll be back. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. So you want something that looks less pinky and more mauvey. Sorry, and more bluish, right? You want a kind of purpley color, not a muddy color, or not sort of a muddy red. So a lot of this will depend on what red you picked. We're just going to see how it works. I'll take a picture of this so you can see how these colors look mixed together. Here we have the basic color wheel. I mean, without the complications. And here is how my colors look. And I hope I'm not like over explaining this or getting too pedantic. You guys will let me know, I assume, if I am lecturing too much. I just want to make sure I don't lose anything. And so here's the color wheel. So go ahead and create one on your canvas. And then notice what is directly across from each other on the color wheel. We have a lot of conversations about color theory. There's books written about it that are some that are very inexplicable. They're hard to understand. There's a lot of talk about it. In my mind, there's only a couple of really important things to know. And that is, actually, I'm going to put this way so I have more room for, yep, there we go. And that is this. These colors that are directly across from each other are called complementary color pairs. And they are so important. There are three. we have, and they're the ones that are across each other from the, so they include one primary each, blue in this case, and one kind of, so, right, so sorry, yellow is a primary, red is a primary, blue is a primary. These are what we call secondary or tertiary, where you mix two colors to get one. So they take two colors. Right. Here's blue, which is a primary, and orange. That's one color pairing. A
So it's
second-
always a primary and something.
Yep, always a primary and a tertiary, a secondary or a tertiary. Red and green. And purple and yellow. Okay, why are these important? These are important because when you put one next to the other, they pop each other forward. They push the viewer to, they jump to the front. When you mix them together, they create a neutralized gray of the other. And they push back, right? When we first start painting, we want every color to be like, you know, pushed forward. We want to throw every beautiful color in. But you'll notice that if you don't have areas of your canvas that are pushing back, and this is whether you're working abstractly or whether you're working in or you're working representationally, the issue is still the same. You don't want too much of one thing going on in your canvas. You need areas that are quiet, that kind of push back, that get neutralized in gray. So grays push back. Bright, vibrant, saturated hues push forward. If you want to bring attention to an area, for example, you might take yellow. Oh, here. Oh, I think I need another. Here, hold on. I'm gonna put this over here. Yeah. Give me one moment. I'm just going to tape this guy up. You might put, there we go. You might put a yellow, right next to a purple there. So I've got a bunch of yellow on my brush right now. I'm going to make sure I clean it off with Gamsol or water. In fact, I might even need more Gamsol, or I might even need to dump my Gamsol out and put in new water. Definitely helps to get the blankie involved. Where are you, blankie? On the ground. Somewhere I have a. All right, and now I'm going to pull my purple. Now in my oil world, this is still dry. Sorry, this is still wet. So I should just be able to pull from this. In your acrylic world, you may have to mix more. And then here's a couple of ways of painting right next to, but not touching. See how I'm loading my brush with paint and then starting at the edge like this and pulling back? It's a great way to
I'm
create.
not touching.
Well, because we're creating a hard edge between one and the other. We want them,
Okay.
we don't want them mixed together yet. We don't want them mixed together yet. So I'm putting these right next to each other. It's a little hard to see my purple because it's dark, but I can tell you from here, it's looking very nice and dramatic. I'm going to do it with the other two complements too. So I've got red and green. And I am creating for sure nice poppy colors. So you'll notice in life that lots of schools and logos and mascots use these colors to pop things forward. I'm looking for more. Hang on, I need here we go. More paper towel. Ah, Leslie, beautiful. So did you notice that your purple looks a little brown?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
All right.
I'm actually
So, and that's okay. I set you up for that. So the reason that's happened is that the red you picked is a cadmium red, which
Yeah.
of course we're going to start with. So if you want to, not all reds are created equal. So if you want to, you can add a cooler red onto your palette. Try mixing that with blue, and I think you'll
Okay. Yeah, I have tallow blue. I know I have.
Phthalo blue, it's not the blue that's the problem, it's the red.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
so sorry.
No, that's fine.
I'm just like, where are my good brushes? I'm like, oh my God.
This is good. This is the first class back of the year.
Carefully.
You're figuring everything out. That's what we want. We're getting ourselves organized. That's what this class is. You can
Yay.
see I'm just pulling down like this, but I could also lay my brush kind of right next to the red and pull back. This is a great way to create what we call a hard edge. And I want to do that if I want my colors to pop. My last one is blue and orange. So let's. And my brush is a little bit wet with Gamsol, so it's probably going to dry, even though oil can take days to dry. Gamsol will make that process happen actually much quicker. It can dry fairly quickly. Oops, too much red. Look, I got way too much red on my brush. I'm going to kind of squeeze it out. I know that even before I start. In fact, I'm not even going to add any red to my brush. There we go. Nice. Yep. Beautiful. So you want to create 3 what we would call hard edges using your 3 complementary colors. And notice how they, complement each other, how they make each other go forward. Nice. By the way, mixing is hard.
Yeah.
Mixing in the next brush technique I'm going to tell you, that is the ultimate practice of painting. So don't worry if you don't get it quite right away. It's definitely something that will improve over time. I'll take a picture of this. If you want to, if you've used cadmium red, you might want to remix the purple using quinacridone red, or even alizarin crimson will make it a little dark, but here are my 3 complementary color pairs. So I know if I want to bring something forward, I might put these 2 next to each other. I always love returning to basics. It doesn't matter how long we've been doing it. I feel like these are things that the more you experience, the more you're like, oh, this is why I'm having trouble with this area. You know what I mean? So this is it's a good place for new people to jump in, but it's a good place for people who've been doing this a while to kind of step back and take so much pressure off to produce this, finished, beautiful piece, and just kind of play around a little bit. Because that's important, kind of understanding it. All kinds of things are happening with these motor skills, right? It's not, the brush can be unfamiliar for some people. I'm loving this brush though. This is beautiful. I think this is a Rosemary's brush, and it's really quite fantastic. So when you think you've got that, send it across. I'll take a look. I'm like, I could use a teeny bit more red in my orange just to distinguish it from the yellow. You can see with my oil, I can just add that right in because my oil is. You can also mix. So you notice I added a little bit more red right here to the canvas. You can do that with acrylic too, but acrylic dries faster, so you have to do it more quickly. I think this is a nice. And I'm going to let you guys do this for a minute. I'll be right back. Let me just quickly run and get something.
There we go.
It is very nice to have representation from Italy today. I always worry this is too late, but maybe it's good for you because all the other chores are done, right?
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Not bad.
Maybe I can't stay all the 3 hours, but
Right,
yeah.
but you can get a little bit of extra practice in. I think it's good. Nice. Pat, put these right next to each other. Don't put them close to each other. Put them next to each other. I mean, right next to
No,
each other.
right next to each other. Okay,
Sides are touching, but they're not mixing.
okay.
Your purple looks great. The mixing looks great. These colors are gorgeous. So very nice. Perfect, Scarlett. Very nice. Very nice. Good colors. All right. So what we're getting to is that there are two types of brush strokes in painting. All paintings have some hard edges, which is what you just painted, where there's a strong straight edge between the painting, between the colors, but a lot of subjects have soft edges, which means that there's a transition from one color to the other, but you can't really see this hard, sharp line. So how do you create a soft edge? Well, this is, my friend, just so that you know, this is a practice. It is like the wax on, wax off. I know all of us are old enough to know that reference and what it means. So I'm going to demonstrate it right now. If you have acrylic paint, these things may have dried by now. My oil has not dried, so I'm going to demonstrate it here by showing you that I can kind of like, I'm going to actually put a little bit more green paint on my brush. You want both sides to be wet. You want both sides to be wet when you do this. And then I'm kind of tapping. I need even more paint on my brush. I'm mixing green so I can have enough green on my brush. I'm kind of tapping one color into the other. Can you see how I'm switching from vertical to horizontal? And you're going to notice two things. One, you're going to see a transition between one and the other. Two, you're going to see this crazy third color in the middle, which is a neutral version of green or red. It's neutral. It's kind of grayish. So the beauty of complementary colors is when you put them next to each other, they pop. When you mix them together, they make a gray, which you often need, right? Any shadow color, any shadowed red has green in it, right? Any shadowed green has red in it, a little bit of red in it. We don't use black. We absolutely don't use black for shadows. We mix our complements to have a kind of contiguous whole. We include the base color that's in both the light and the shadow. So here I'm going to do it again. I think I'm going to go from yellow. It's often easier to go light to dark. So once again, I have a pretty loaded brush.
Nice hole.
And see how I'm tapping.
Hey, you guys, watch out, watch out.
I'm not just
Sorry.
That's okay. I might mute you. I might, so notice I'm not just pushing the line of this strong line, I'm eradicating the line. So there's a transition, but it's soft. I'm doing a lot of tapping here, a lot of patting and tapping. So you can work with these. I want to see some soft edges. In this case, I'm going to take, like I said, it's often easier to do light, to take light into dark. You do want them both. So if you're working in acrylic and one side is dried, you need to wet it with that color before you go on. There we go. So, my shadow here looks particularly green because I have a lot of yellow in my blue, in my orange. So I'm actually going to take a little bit more red on my brush and kind of drift it in to create something that's more gray and less green. So it looks green because yellow and blue make green, right? So if my orange is predominantly yellow, my shadow might look more green than it does gray. So if that's happening, I take a little bit of the other color to try and try and mix it, to try and gray it, make it more gray. I mean, it won't be exactly the same color gray. That looks great, Rebecca. Great. Leslie, lovely. Yeah. That's a yummy, very yummy purple. We're going to spend time talking about warm and cool, but probably not this lesson. Oh, I just realized as I looked at this that my red to green is still a little bit liney. There's this kind of liney here. So I'm tapping that out. So I don't really see, I don't want there to be a line. Nice. So go ahead and create blended edges between complements. Here, this looks a little bit better. I'll take another picture. So I corrected, even so, I see what's happening here. Too much red here. All right, there we go. That's better. Still. Blend this over so I don't have, I can see a little bit of that red line. So I'm using more paint. It helps to go the opposite way, right? Vertical and then horizontal, then vertical. There we go. I think that's better. So there aren't any really strong, damn it. I hate it when that happens. Okay, I'm going to do this again. Okay, there we go. And if I want to adjust this, if I feel like this is too red, if I feel it's too red, I'll add a little bit more blue in here. So the first challenge is to really mix a secondary or tertiary color that has the right balance of things, right? So that when you blend it with the primary, it really appears gray. Sometimes you have to fiddle with that a little bit. If it seems to be more of a muddy, particular color than it does a gray, you want to add a little bit more of the color that you're not seeing in the mix. So this is the first basic practice. Let's see. Okay, Rebecca, what I see here are all hard lines. Can you see them?
Yeah, I can't. I was trying to undo them, but I didn't know how to do it.
So you want to load more, you want to get, you're working in acrylic, right? So you want to
Yeah.
get wet paint on both sides. So you need to get you need to get both sides wet, and then you need this kind of tapping motion.
Okay.
Yep. That's
I got
okay.
you.
And that's okay. It gets like, this is how we start, right? Like you're rusty. It's like, right?
Yeah.
It's practice. So, if you have one color that dries, what usually happens is we see that color and its lines underneath. And this shouldn't be exactly easy. So don't practice it a bit. we're gonna spend we're gonna spend all of January doing practices like this one, practicing mixing, practicing basic techniques. If this is something that you don't want to do, that's totally fine. You can totally bring a project, whatever it is, and come in and work on it, and I will help you with it. Honestly, Pat, I really think your owl is done. I think he's gorgeous.
Look closer to those eyes.
Okay, let me do that. I love the background color, by the way. It's very
Do
pretty.
you? I was
Yeah.
thinking about maybe blending it a little bit lighter and.
No, I like it. I like
Okay. Okay.
Maybe you want to do some, I think that you finally kind of came up with nice brush strokes that handle, I think it's gorgeous. You might want to do a bright highlight on the eye, just a little dab of white in the place.
You mean on the rim of the eye?
Well, you need to look at where it is. Usually it's on the eye itself.
Oh,
need to
okay, because
look
I
at where
put
it-
in like 5 or 6 of those, but
Yeah,
they're
but
not bright enough.
they're not bright enough.
Okay,
So
okay.
that, I think that's the only thing I can see. So you should look at the picture,
Okay,
where the brightest reflected light is. We're going to talk about that later today. Reflected light, but I think he looks fabulous. I love his neck. I love how you handle the I mean, maybe there might be a little bit of, it looks a little bit like the light's hitting him straight on, so there might be a way you're going to want to add more light to one side. But other than that, it looks great.
okay, thank you. Okay.
Looks like you did a lot of work on him.
Yeah, I had done a lot of work on it. I took the eyes and I blew up this picture. Try to get really into
You
those
really
eyes.
see him. Yep. Yep.
I think that blue and orange are the problem here.
So Pat, not bad. I like the yellow and the purple very much. These other two need a little bit more to do a
I
little.
might have to start over on the blue and orange.
Do it if you want to. Yeah, do it. And also notice that you just kind of on the red and green, you just kind of pushed the line a little bit over. You
Okay,
didn't
okay. I
soften it. So that's what you're wanting to do, is kind of soften it.
think I need more moisture in there.
This is going to come into play. Francesca will tell you because she's already done it. This is going to come into play very importantly in our exercise of painting the apple.
You might as well be painting a sphere. You're not fooling us.
Yep. You weren't supposed to figure that out. It's actually more satisfying to paint something that actually looks like something. So
I agree.
honestly, I
agree.
could say it's actually better, but
I'm
yeah,
just teasing you.
I know you were like, I was like, you're not painting a spear, but we're going to create something very spear-like. There's something about the spear exercise. There's not really any incentive to kind of finish it because, it's not on its own.
That's true.
An actual object is a lot more fun.
Blue.
How's this feeling, everybody? Fun, frustrating, kind of weird?
Well, mine definitely
Actually
dried
glad
a
to be
little bit
doing it.
before I kind of was able to mix, but so it looks a little choppy to me, I guess. I can send over a picture, but
I might have a technique about how to fix that.
okay. There we go.
Let's see. There you are.
And I was kind of like,
You're like, you don't have enough paint on your brush. So
yeah,
what you
I think because part of it is like,
it dried.
it dried on my palette, but like, so I was like, oh, I got to because we did the wheel and then we did the, so I had to kind of like reconstitute my colors.
What I would do is this, I would go get a little bit more, say blue on your blue side, to get a little bit more blue paint on there. And then orange so that it's wet again, right? And then try pushing that. You need to get both sides wet for this to really function. When one side is dry and the other is wet, it's a technique called dry brush, and we will practice it in later models, but it's not what we're doing today.
Okay, here is my question. This is kind of going back to the beginning question, I think, is that as I'm mixing,
Mhm.
maybe I just don't have enough paint, because when I'm mixing it, it spreads
You
all
don't
out.
have enough paint.
And then whatever I've mixed
Yep, so
dries
you're,
out super quick.
yeah, so you're,
Then I have to like add water, but then it's thin.
you don't have enough paint. So you got to let go of that worry that you're wasting paint. You need more paint, more paint, more paint.
It's weird because I'm like, oh, well, it's going to dry out. So I want to use less paint so that it's not.
But you're using too much less. That's all. You're not using the right amount of less.
What's the magic number? What is this supposed to look like on my?
The only way you can figure that out, Scarlett, is to do it. Right? Like, I mean, I can show you here. It's maybe, I usually do like, let's see. I mean, I can show you how much I usually put on. Like,
Is there also like a weight? Because what I feel like when I'm mixing,
no, there's not a
in order
weight.
to like blend it fully, it just, even if I have more paint, what happens is it just like spreads out to a bigger blob.
So that situation means you're using too much water. So squeeze your brush out so it's wet but not watery.
Or like I don't know, like
I think you need to do it more. I feel like you're talking yourself out of doing it.
I guess because I'm like pressing it off of the brush.
Yes. So all of these things are true. You need to give yourself enough paint. This is acrylic paint, right?
Can everybody see my camera? Maybe you need some medium. See it?
That's what you're saying. Water. She needs more water. More water.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So watch this. I'm like putting about this much paint. There's a couple things that happen. And I think part of it is you've got to try something a little different every time. So I usually give myself that much paint, right? So there's that much paint. And hang on, I don't want to mix these. So I need the right brush. Okay. If I use too much water, it gets watery.
Cobalt.
Too much water, it gets watery. So I'd like to maybe squeeze my brush dry so it's wet. It's not wet, but it's not so drippy. I want to work in.
We smell fresh.
I want to work in it's like this, right? I don't want to try and spread it out so much. Little piles, but I think your key is you're using I think the two things that are happening for you, Scarlett, are you're using too much water and you're using not enough paint. So address both.
Well, I'm not using too much water in general. I'm like then trying to reconstitute with water because rather than like
then you need more paint.
I'm getting lazy, but like that amount that you just showed feels like what I'm using. So I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know what to tell you. I want you to just keep trying, I guess is my point. Like if you keep getting the same result, then we will review it again. But I think it's also just getting your hands. I mean, I'll do it again and I'll show you how much paint is on my brush. Here, it's kind of I've got a little pile of it. See?
Yeah, I mean, I do that.
Well, keep doing it.
But then when I mix, maybe because I'm like to see the color, maybe I'm spreading it out too much or like, I just can't, I feel like, well, I need to get it thoroughly mixed so that I can see what color.
Try using a palette. How about you try using a palette knife? You have
I
one?
don't have one, but I maybe can get one.
You might want to try using a palette knife. Let me show you how a palette. I'm just double checking. So a palette knife, sometimes you can scoop up more, right? Palette, maybe you need to do this less with your brush and more with a palette knife.
Yeah.
If you've got like a plastic butter knife, that might help. You might be able to try that today. But see how I'm able to like kind of pick up. So there's not really water involved in this process, which might also make it easier for you to mix. And then you can kind of pop in and go, okay, I'm going to test this here. Right. And see how. Try that. It might be palette knife related, but also you might just need to do it a few times and not overthink it.
You all done?
Because sometimes the overthinking is the thing that blocks the way of doing it. So a little bit more. And then if not, I'll send you, so I mean, palette knives cost like, I don't know, $1. They're not expensive. So you should pick up a palette knife and practice with that. And if you don't have a palette knife, maybe this time a plastic knife might actually work. If you've got one from like a picnic set or something, you might try that. But mostly this is just it's usually some little subtle nuance that will change things. So address the water, squeeze your brush out, give yourself more paint. Don't spread it out so thin. You might not be able to see exactly the color it is until you put it on your canvas. That's another thing. So you might be testing it on your canvas to see how it looks. So actually that might be what's happening here. Hold on. So often I can't really tell when I look at this mixture what it looks like until I put it on here. And then I'm like, oh no, I wanted a little bit more brown. So I can go back in and I can actually mix right on there. See how I just mixed right on here?
On the canvas.
Yeah, right on the canvas. So I do that a lot. I don't get exactly the color I want. I get something close, I lay it down, and then I'm like, over here, oh no, I want this much darker. And I want it a little bit greener. So I'm just gonna load my brush in with green and fairly quickly, right, pop in. And even if you don't get exactly the color you want on the first go, you can sometimes mix it a little bit. So then say it dries too fast, you can go back in and say, oh, I remember I need to do a little bit more green in here. Lay it on top. And so you might want to, I mix all the time with my brush on the canvas. I'm constantly adjusting my colors once I lay them down. And I work exclusively in acrylic now, so it goes fast. So when I'm laying something down, I'm like, oh, does this work? Let me try it again. I picked kind of black color. So try to add something fun like cadmium red. Right?
I'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay. Cadmium red and green. So say I want to mix kind of a cadmium green. I want to mix a kind of shadowed red. I put it on here. I'm like, that's just not green enough. I can go back in and grab more green and blend it right in there. So it may be that your mix finalizes on the canvas.
Okay.
I bet you that's what's going on. I'm gonna bet money. Bet you.
There you go.
How's everybody else doing with this? So I must have things to look at here. Or hold on. Ha ha ha! So beautiful, Leslie. Fabulous.
Thank
Love
you. I
I
kind
feel
of
like we're in-
cheated and took some color out of a tube. That's why that purple is so nice.
Oh yeah. Totally valid. You can totally do it. I mean, we're practicing mixing, but really I want you to do what you want. This is reminding me of barista's class now.
Yes, yes.
I like the soft edge you've got between the red and the green. And you've got a nice hard edge between the purple, the yellow, and the orange.
Yeah.
Right? So I see what you're doing. So yeah, just that, totally do it. I mean, yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, don't feel like you have to do this exactly the way I'm doing it. If it's more fun, because it can be kind of, basics can be kind of tedious. All right. Anybody else want to show me anything you got there?
I'm finally back.
Hi, Diana. Nice to have you back.
Now I'm gonna start painting. So I'm gonna show
Excellent.
you.
You're still working on that portrait, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Portraits are hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see. It might be it might end up being a study for a real portrait. We don't know yet.
Right. Hey, Scarlett, how did your daughter love that glorious portrait you painted of her last year?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, she liked it. She still hasn't seen it in person because
Oh, right. She's still
Europe. She won't be back until June, probably.
got it.
We went and visited her, but surprise,
Bring
I
that
didn't
canvas
bring a
with you.
canvas with me
Yeah, totally.
in my suitcase.
When's she back?
But she's there for the whole school year, so that goes through June, like mid June, late June, something like that.
Hey, these are great, guys. These are great. Rebecca, much better, particularly with the purple and yellow and the red and green. That's great. You're still a little bit of line in the blue, but I like this is much better.
Yeah, I have the same problem. I don't think I'm using enough paint because it dries really fast.
Yeah. So just glop on more paint and less
Yeah.
water, right? Less water. So your brush can be wet, but it doesn't ripping.
Okay.
And so you can squeeze like some of that excess water out of the brush or Gamsol if you're using oil.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between like pushing it versus pulling it?
Well, you
I mean,
tell me.
like pulling red toward the green or pushing green toward the red. Is there a difference? So I've been trying it, but it all looks like mud to me.
Well, it should be looking like mud because it should be looking like mud because it should be a neutralized gray, right?
Yeah.
So in general, they say that you'll want to blend lighter into darker. The lighter into darker color. But sometimes that's not what you want. It just kind of depends on what the edge is requiring. Sometimes the darker edge is what you want to bring into the lighter. So it just depends. I mean, I think the big thing to take away from this is this idea here. Hold on, I'm looking for mine. Is that like if you lay down, gotta be careful not to use the right thing. If you lay down right like one color, like I'm just gonna do red and yellow. Right? If you lay these down vertically this way, it's important to shift direction.
Oh, okay.
So you're pushing one into the other. So here I'm, and sometimes you really need to load up your brush with color. See, I don't know if you see how much color I've got. If my brush is too dry, and Scarlett, this might also go back to your question. If I don't have enough paint on my brush, it's going to look kind of sort of washed out. See that? So it helps actually to kind of load up more paint on your brush. I actually have a little pile of paint there. And then I'm kind of patting it down.
So why did you pick the yellow to load up on instead of the red?
Because it's lighter than red.
Because it's lighter, okay.
It's lighter than red. And you can see it makes a kind of nice little orange there in between. So, but it's not always that way. I mean, it just depends. You honestly, you'll see it kind of depends on the nature of your shadows. It depends on what's happening, right? It depends on what's happening. These are great, you guys. These are good. This is a practice. So we're going to practice it some more by working on a subject. Let's do it. So we're going to work on it's not a sphere. That's very clever of you, Pat, to notice that. I've been having, next week, we're gonna do oranges. I've been having Diana take pictures of oranges from her garden. I think I'm gonna move this down here first while we do this first part of it. So here is the apple. What direction is the light coming from?
The right,
How can you tell?
by that little white spot there.
Well, yeah, a couple of things, right? So the light always hits the subject, right? And leaves this reflected spot. And what else? What else shows that to you? What else do we see?
The shadows to the left.
Yep, absolutely. So we've got a little tiny car
Shadow.
shadow that's quite dark, and then a kind of lighter shadow going here. And there's one more thing that we can see. If you look closely, you'll see that there's actually a transition between the light part of the apple to the medium part of the apple to the dark part of the apple, right? And for those of you who don't remember spheres, I'm going to send you a picture. And then right before this dark side of the apple turns around, it gets a little lighter again. I'm going to send this over so you can really see it clearly. There you go, Scarlett. You got it. Yep. It's good. That's good. You got it. You got it. Bravo. Okay. And like I said, don't worry. This is a practice. You're going to get better and better at this. I'm going to take pictures of this so you guys can see. This is kind of a lighter value. This gets a little bit darker here, then it gets even darker as the apple turns away. And then right before the apple totally turns around, there's a reflected edge on this dark side. So we're going to actually start with our pencils. Let me get a pencil that has a. We're going to actually start. How do I want to do this? We're going to start with a circle, just a perfectly round circle. This is not the shape of the apple, but it's close to the shape of the apple. We're going to start with a circle here, like this. And then you're going to add just kind of a little bottom edge to it, like this. And then up here, you're going to flatten it a little bit. There's this yellow part that's kind of at the top, and it takes over most of the top, like that. And then go ahead and put in your.
No, Sunny.
Right, so we start with a circle, and then we just add the bottom, and we kind of flatten the top a little bit.
No more.
And we've got this shadow like that. And then you can also put in like your reflected edge. And then here you can also, if you want to, very lightly with your pencil, mark where the kind of light red is, that kind of medium muddy color. We're going to practice mixing the dark. And then this light area, this lighter area here on the edge. Take a picture of that too. But if you want to do like, say, what Leslie's doing, which is goofing around with the abstract stuff and layering that way, you can totally do that too. So there's no, once again, I want you to turn this class into your own class. This is just a suggestion. If you're interested in doing this, we can do this.
Talk more about the abstract stuff. What do you mean?
Just layer colors on top of each other abstractly, play around with abstract compositions. I can't really coach you exactly on how to do that, but I can tell you, you can play with this. You can see Leslie has played around by dripping yellows over other colors. So if you want to do that, you can. You don't have to do this. It just kind of depends on what, if you have an idea that you want to kind of explore, you should do it.
Oh, okay. You're not talking about doing it on the apple.
No,
Okay.
although that would look pretty radical. I mean, why not? If you could pull it off.
That's the pulling it off is the problem.
Yeah, see what Leslie's got here? So she's
Yeah, I
playing.
think it's very cool. It's where I want to go, but I don't know how to go there.
Well, this is not exactly the class for that, but I can tell you that you can. Ooh, very nice, Leslie. Hold on. Yep, exactly. Exactly. Beautiful. I can tell you that you can start with like maybe one layer of color. If you're working with oil, it's going to be more difficult because you have to wait for things to dry. So I don't know, Pat, I'm not sure this is exactly the right thing for you to do. I think you need to take an abstract class for that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Abstract
Yeah.
art. I don't teach abstract art, but if that's your bent, you can see Leslie just naturally goes there. She should do that. Let me see. Hold on. What are you doing here? I'm going to pop this up. Hold that up. What is that? Hold it up, Leslie. No. What are you? We can't hear you, sweetie.
Sorry. What
No.
do you mean? This?
Holding something up. Yeah. There we go. Right.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. No, I was pouring water actually out of a
Oh, you're
big
just pouring
jar.
water. Awesome.
This.
It looks cool.
So
And my well,
You
I'm
do
muting
have
because my dog is in here and he's loud.
that is what those hounds do.
Those
So
damn hounds.
you do have the option of reviewing any of the years worth of abstract classes that Carista Trask taught. You can take any
Yeah.
of those.
But
So
I haven't drawn an
those are
apple
all-
probably since high school. So
Those are all recorded and available to all of you. For those of you who don't remember, I will remember to send you the YouTube link. There is a lot of abstract art classes on there. It's too bad Carissa doesn't really have time to do it.
Thanks, Annie.
That I wish she did, but she is a busy lady.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it's really good. I'm gonna see if I can put my palette up here. To your palette, to the red, yellow, and the blue, you may want to add white. And you might want to add more than one red, right? If you've only got one red, you might want to add a different kind of red as you go in there. My oils are so, I don't know if I'll ever go back. I probably will go back to them. They are pretty rich and wonderful. I'm just not into it these days. I guess when I'm not in such a hurry to make things finished, I may enjoy going back to oil. So you might want to put a little white on your canvas, on your palette.
Hey, Leah,
Yeah,
can you repeat that? I got cut off from the internet for a little bit.
Sure.
Which colors are we using?
the same colors,
Same
Right.
colors, just the
red,
same?
yellow, green, and then, sorry, red, yellow, blue, and a little bit of white.
Okay,
Same colors, right?
all right.
Adding white. Oh, and you might want to add a second red. So I have a very cool red here. I think I'm going to take a little bit of cadmium red, which is oranger and more kind of yellowy. I might add you might add a second red too, just to have options, maybe mix them together. Little bits. And I'm also, while I'm at it, this is pretty messy and dirty right now. This is my Gams foam. So I'm gonna, here, you can really see it in there. If you're using water and acrylic, it's probably the same. So you may want to go dump out the dirty medium, the acrylic, your Gamsol or your water, and wash your brush and kind of get a clean slate. If you are using Gamsol, please don't dump it down the sink. Put it into a jar with a tight lid, and eventually and then you can rinse your brush in the sink with water. But eventually, you'll take that to the hazardous waste center. If you're using Gamsol, you might even want to like take a little, tissue paper or paper towel in your jar like that, and really clean it out. You can get fresh stuff. We are not talking in this lesson about layers, although you will definitely add more than one. We're going to talk about underpaintings in the next lesson. Here we're really going to be focusing on blending, right, and mixing. So if everybody's, sorry, what did I do with my picture? When everybody's ready.
So Leah, I'm sending you another fruit. I thought a grapefruit is much more round, so I'm sending that to you too.
Fabulous.
Not on a proper background, but if you want it, I'll put it on a better background.
Please do. Okay,
I sent it to you. On
Pat and Leslie, excellent. Pat and Leslie, your paintings look like, wait a minute. Why does, Pat and Leslie, your things look absolutely, this picture is identical. Who?
No, there's like 2 extra.
Oh, you're right. Oh my God, that's so, well, no.
I think it's just a reply, like she's liked it, so it shows up again or something.
Oh, I see. All right. Yeah, I was like,
Okay. I didn't realize I'd sent it. Okay.
That's okay.
cool. I like the apple too. So when you're ready, raise your hand, let me know if you're ready, and we will start the mixing painting process. You ready? Scarlett, you ready?
Yep.
All right, Leslie, you're ready, obviously, because you've got your, Rebecca, are you ready? Rebecca, you ready? Whoop, did we lose her again?
Yes.
Where's
Sorry, I
Rebecca?
muted myself.
All right, so we're gonna, when I look at this apple, although there's a lot of pink in it, it also has a little bit of orange. So I'm actually gonna mix cadmium red and quinacridone red, a kind of cooler red with a warmer red. Kind of this rust color. As I start. Now, because I am using oil, I'm kind of laying the color. Pat, I'm not using water really, or Gamsol. I'm just kind of laying straight paint down. And I'm going to work a little bit around this white spot. For those of you who are working in acrylic, you can just go right over this area where the white spot is.
What do you mean? Back to oil, are you?
Well, this is an oil painting class.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't notice.
Yeah, yep. I'm not painting in oil, but I'm demonstrating in oil today. Because I did the same one in acrylic on Thursday. So, but most people in this class are using acrylic, which is fine. So if you're using acrylic, you're going to want to paint And in fact, if you want to, you can kind of brush a little bit of the red. Notice I'm not entirely covering into the shadowy part. Up here, it's yellowish, so I'm not adding any color in there right now. You can basically, you can see like it's kind of basic red. I mixed cad red and yellow. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this mixture that I made to paint my apple. And over here, I'm going to add a touch of green into the mix. Now, Scarlett, again, because I'm really sure this is what the issue is, right? And it's a very important issue to cover technically, so I appreciate you bringing it up. Notice I'm not exactly sure what this color is going to look like until I lay it on the canvas. And then I'm like, do I need a little bit more green? Maybe a little bit. Do I need a little bit more red? Okay. So I'm blending this in, and then I'm going to add a little bit more green to get darker. So you can kind of see a trend. I'm adding more green to make my red darker, to my red mix, to get it darker.
Right there on the canvas.
Yep. Now, as soon as I do this, in oil, I have the advantage because my painting isn't going to dry right away. I want to blend. I want a soft edge. So I'm going back in and I'm just getting the basic red color, that light red color, and I'm going to blend it into the edge of the darker color. For those of you in acrylic, you're going to need to work a little, you may need to work a little faster. You may need to re-wet the side, but look at how already just sort of softening that edge makes this apple look rounder. It's weird. It's not even finished, right? And then I'm going to add a little green to the red that's on my brush. And I'm going to I want to make sure I have a pretty distinct difference between my light and my medium and my dark side. So I'm adding a little bit more and I'm blending in too. So this is a soft edge exercise, right? Where you're blending the shadow area into the light area. Right here at this corner, you're gonna make this a little bit lighter. You're gonna add a little bit of, a tiny bit of white to your shadow that you've mixed. And that's gonna go right here. Don't worry, if you're working in acrylic, you do not have to worry. If you don't get this on the first go, you can totally just wait till it dries and layer on top. That is the practice. I want to blend that a little bit. Because I'm using oil, I'm going to take a little bit of plain white here and blend it. It's also my highlight. So notice here's where acrylic has an advantage over oil. My paint is wet, so when I blend in my pink, my white over my red, it gets a little pink. So I may need to wait until that dries before I can get my light dynamic enough, or maybe I can wait just a little bit and then load my brush. For you working in acrylic, you can wait till it dries and add it on top. This also doesn't exactly have a hard edge. It's a little bit of a hard edge, but it's softer than you think. Here, I'm just like really loading up white oil paint on my brush. Whoops, make sure not to get too much. And I'm still, notice I'm mostly kind of using the corner of my brush and tapping. Do this a couple of times. You may have to paint over right? You may notice that you get too dark. So you might have to, wet both sides again. That's what often happens with acrylic.
Oh, come on.
But really, it's kind of the same thing. So much paint here. The top here is kind of greeny yellow. Maybe slightly orange, a little bit of red. So I'm gonna pop in top. It's kind of green with a touch of red in it, right over the top here. And then that also kind of blends a little bit at the edge where it turns. So there's a little bit of a before it turns around. And then I will usually mix blue, red and yellow, the primaries, to create a dark color for my skin. Mix the three primaries together to create a dark color. And if you make it too thick, like I just did, I can use my background, even my finger. I can blend paint in. Use my background to thin it out. So don't worry if you make that a little too thick. We can work on that. It's because I've got a little bit of dark on my brush, and don't worry, ask me about any color mix. Down here at the bottom, it's quite dark, right? That shadow. So I'm just going to go right in there with my green, yellow, red mixture. I'll bring it in. No. The red kind of goes right next to it, but that's more of a hard edge, that foreshadow. So that is the practice. I'm not done yet, but I don't want to go too far until you start working. Anyway, don't worry if there's this feeling of I'm going back and forth over it a few times.
Okay.
While we're at it, we did have an excellent teacher in 2022 for about 6 months teaching abstract art. So I'm going to find that. Anybody wants to look at those videos. We don't have her available, but her videos are free to look at. So I will find the channel, the exact playlist. They were great, weren't they, Leslie? She was a really good class.
Yeah, it was an excellent class, and especially all the color theory helped me a lot. And also not being afraid to use as much paint. I was listening earlier and I forgot the student's name that you were discussing.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I did that for years. I was afraid to use paint because it was so expensive. And
I did too. I did the exact same thing.
Isn't that interesting? It's such a this is such a universal thing.
Yeah.
Such a universal thing. Okay, here's
I think there's something too about if you're doing a practice thing instead of a real painting, you do the same thing. You don't want to waste your paint on that.
Right.
So buy lots of cheap paint.
Yeah.
I think I also just know about myself that I'm just a person who likes to like dip a toe in before I really go. I just want to
that's totally valid.
Want to be an extra first before like really going for the lead. And like there's just something about just being like, oh well, I'll just start with a teeny tiny bit and see how that goes. So
it's valid. That's totally valid, Scott. I think that's what everybody's telling you. This is a very valid way of thinking about it. And then you kind of build up slowly because you're right. You're not getting the effect you want. So you're like, oh, wait, I'm gonna have to like push myself, right? I'm gonna have to push myself a little bit more. I have a question for you guys, which is for all of you who said you worried about wasting paint, was it a money thing or was it a you were doing something, what was the reason for not wanting to waste paint? Was it money or was it kind of something more emotional? I guess would be my question.
I think for me, it was money.
Me too. Yeah.
Just because I was so dirt poor for so long in my younger years. And then, you know, you get used to it. Even when I could start affording paint, it's a really hard habit to break. You know, it's like cleaning your plate, right? Like I'm not hungry, but my mom's going to make me clean my plate. So that's not the greatest metaphor or analogy, whatever comparison, but it's sort of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Or like, you just kind of have a certain set point of like, oh, that's expensive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I started to paint, I would buy these pint bottles of really cheap paint, and it was of really cheap paint.
You know, I kind of fought that because in my opinion, you're never going to get good with cheap paint.
Of course you will.
You know,
You will, though, because it's less about the paint and the materials and more about how you use it, right? It's funny, but I've been having this debate in many ways across many classes. So I just started teaching pastel drawing to a group of people who've never used color yesterday. It's on Saturdays. So we went from drawing to pastels. And one of Diana's and my good friends who is in the class, Sandra Mahler, who's used pastels for a long time, insisted that I should tell them to use the most expensive, great paper there was. Because she was like, and I went, no, I'm not going to do that. And she goes, they'll hate their results. And I said, I don't think they're going to hate their results. I think we started with newsprint because newsprint is cheap and you can you feel a little bit less. So for me, where that happens for me is I want the opportunity to make mistakes, right? So if I tell people immediately, well, there's two things that I think about it. And one of those things is, I think one of the things that stops people from doing art is an idea that they have to have a certain type of paper and a certain type of brush and a certain kind of blah, 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 blah. And I just don't think that's true. I think there are people, I think it's more about how you use it than, I mean, but materials matter. It doesn't mean materials don't matter. And it doesn't mean that eventually you're not going to need it. But, you know, she was very insistent that they would have a terrible experience if they used what she considered a shitty paper. And
I'm with you there.
Well, I mean, were you in on the class yesterday? I don't think anybody had a shitty experience. I think they were all delighted. I think they loved it. And I think you need to give yourself the opportunity to mess up.
Yeah.
Right. And so using cheap materials just means, oh, good, this is my prep. I don't have to stress so much about everything. So that is but also it's not just the using the cheap materials. It's one of the things people will do to stop themselves is to say to themselves, I don't have the right materials, therefore I can't do art. Right. That's psychology as well.
I say, I mean, even in the 99-cent stores, you find paint. You find these bottles of gouache that you can use that cost 99 cents.
Yeah.
And cheap brushes.
Yeah. And cheap brushes. I use my favorite brush is costs $1.
Yeah.
I paint with these. You get 50 brushes, 50.
Oh yeah, hold that up. That's a really good set. And it's not expensive.
I think it's $9 and it's 50 brushes.
Yeah. All different sizes, types.
Yeah. And they're acrylic, they're good. I mean, that's all I paint with pretty much.
When I was in school, I had a great painting teacher, Louis Mateo, and he was like, he didn't want us to spend a lot of money on supplies because, we had a supply list. this was really, I took a whole year of basic design through him. And that's where we had a really extensive supply list. And he was just like, because I went out and bought some Winsor Newton. He's like, Leslie, you didn't have to buy that really expensive paint. And I was like, well, my mom bought it. So.
No, I think thinking that way just stops you from developing.
It's a block. It's a way we come up, you know, if you think about it, doing art is a bit like exercise, doing exercise. We are always, I feel like this because I exercise like 3 times a week. I have a class I go to. If I did not have that class, honestly, I wouldn't exercise.
You're so good.
Half the time, I don't want to exercise. More than half the time, I am looking for excuses to get out of exercise. I really am. I'm like looking for reasons to not do it because it's hard and I don't feel like doing it. And sometimes it's crappy and blah, blah. But here's the thing. I've set up a situation. Now my teacher tracks me down on Facebook if I don't show up at class and she wants to know where I am. Right? Like I have no reason to tell her. So I feel like people come up with similar things to stop themselves from painting. So if I don't have exactly the right materials is one of the things I have heard over the years. This is what stops you because it's uncomfortable, right? Like it's kind of uncomfortable. You have to do things you don't know, blah, 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 blah. There's all these things that happen. So I think it's better, in my view, it's more utilitarian to say, let's just use what you've got.
Yeah.
And we'll build from there. If you're not getting the result you want, maybe it's a materials question, or maybe it's a how I'm using the materials question.
Yeah, I mean, and eventually you might want to upgrade, but you know, for studying, there is no need to buy expensive stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
I won't lie, Sandra kind of yelled at me. She sort of scolded me for making them stop.
Yeah, but she doesn't have those problems and she doesn't have to think about how much it costs. So
she was like, it's so funny. She yelled at me. She was like, you can't do this. You're going to ruin their experience.
But maybe she's used to selling. I mean, I feel like if you're going to sell a piece, you know, you want to use the best materials you can.
No, she works for writers full time. I mean,
also probably people have had experiences too, where like, because my husband usually says this too, like the skateboards people buy for kids. He's like, they don't work very well. So, you know, you don't have as much control or what, I have no idea. But there is a way in which like you can sometimes like, it doesn't like the material doesn't like behave, or it's a little harder to work with, that can make it a little bit more challenging. But I think it's just such a good conversation to have about like, yeah, sure. Like if you buy this paint, it might be a little smoother and it might like look a little more luscious, but it's not, you don't have to have this one.
exactly.
It's like only if you have the luxury or someone wants to give you a gift or something like that. Like I remember using like the Prismacolor colored pencils for the first time in high school. And I was like, oh, these are like, they have like good saturated color and they blend. And it was like totally experience.
Awesome.
And like Crayola, you know, colored pencils, like, which were just kind of like thin and in terms of the color. And like, I had a very different experience like using those. But I mean, also totally valid to feel like, okay, you don't have to have all the fanciest tools in order to do art.
Leslie, having said that, I'm going to tell you, you need much more paint, hon.
I know, I'm not using enough paint and then I'm using my fingers. I know. It's what I struggled with in a Carista's class, is that I'm just so used to using
way more paint.
More paint.
Hold your brush. So, and also I like your transitions. However, so number one, this white spot is a bit too big. It's half as much paint. But the other thing is, so you want to, I mix a little cadmium red with a sort of pinky red to get a richer color. It looks less flat and more rich and more of it. And then I only see one I only see one layer. I don't see the two,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
So I
right.
we need these
Oh, I
three
see it,
really
yes.
here. We really need these 3 transition pieces. Pat, that's pretty nice color, but I'm going to tell you the same. Your light to dark ratio isn't very clear, and mine isn't either. So I'm going to go in right now and fix that. So watch me. I'm going to take a little bit of cadmium red light, which is a very light. I'm going right in over on my light side. See how I'm just adding more paint in here?
And you're
And-
just putting it, oh, are you gonna mix it in or are you gonna,
Well, watch.
okay,
I'm putting it over.
yeah,
Of course, I'm mixing it in, right? And now I'm blending it into my dark side. So there still isn't that strong. So I still see some striations right up and down like this in your apple. I see a little bit of this, these
Okay.
lines in your apple. And you
Ah.
can't, you want to get rid of those,
okay.
right? So I like the coverage. You're not having a paint issue, like not enough paint. But definitely your issue is we don't have enough transition, right, between light, medium, and dark.
Yeah,
You know how I did that? And what happens is, so now I have 3 zones. Here, I'm even gonna fix it more. I even have the 3 zones. I have the kind of medium, and then I'm going into dark. You can see them, but they're not, this is the wax on, wax off challenge. And look, I'm going back and forth quite a lot. Now, look, I do this all day, every day. So it's a lot easier for me to, I may be making it look easier than it actually is. Don't let me fool you on that one. This is a lot of practice to get to this point. You'll go back and forth a lot, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You'll lose your, see how I kind of lost it a little bit, although I'm okay with that up here because it's a little bit darker up here. I maybe have lost a little bit of my dark. I'm going to go in here and kind of, whoops, maybe that's too dark. So yeah, Scarlett, look at this. This is what I'm doing. Without really knowing it, this is what I was doing. I'm just like laying color down and going, oh, does that work? Or do I need to lighten or darken that? What's nice about oil is I don't really have to worry. Although what you can say is what's nice about acrylic is it dries fast and then you can layer over again. So I'm testing all the time. You can see, and look at that. There is a transition happening. Now, at some point you might feel like and notice I took that dark here and put it under where my core shadow is.
that's your dark red?
No, I mixed
No?
the 3 primaries to get it. I mixed
Oh, okay.
blue to get it on something that looked almost black. And I put it in the stem and I put it under here in the core shadow. And now I might like do something. Let's see. I did something different. My sort of go-to is always to do a blue background, but I don't really have a lot of blue right now. So I'm going to try and do a yellow background. So I mixed white with yellow. And I'm using that to work on my hard edges, right? To work my hard edges of my apple. So I'm coming over here and pulling back. I'm not leaving a little white space in between. I am using this to help shape this technique of doing the hard edge to shape my apple. Oh, that's okay.
Oh, okay.
Right? So that's how you kind of place your apple in space, right? And you work those edges. Sometimes it's helpful. It really works when you do it with blue and white. You have a blue and white edge. I just didn't happen to have, my white was very sort of, I didn't have much. So I was like, I wonder what it would look like to do it in yellow.
What kind of blue would you use?
What blue do you have?
Got a bunch of them.
Cerulean
Cerulean blue,
phthalo
phthalo blue,
teal.
teal.
Maybe phthalo blue with white, or cobalt teal is really nice. Teal is nice.
Well, maybe I'll do
We
teal.
want a little bit of white to it, Rebecca, to make
Add
it.
some white, you said?
I said you want to add a little bit of white to it.
Okay,
So it's a little bit lighter, right, in saturation.
gotcha.
Others. And now I'm looking at the edge of my apple. I'm like, it looks a little bit like kind of short, too short. So look at me, I'm actually painting, and I'm using oil to do this. I'm actually painting into the edge and correcting the end. I'm extending the edge a little bit so that I can reshape my apple, kind of using the background. This, but no mistake about it. This is a hard edge, right? Everything inside the apple is a soft edge. But this edge, where the edge of the apple meets the background, whatever color that is for you, that's a hard edge. But you will see that every piece of this will help your eye kind of determine what it is. Yeah, right before this meeting, I was in another meeting. My aunt runs a nonprofit called Awareness, Courage, and Love. She has like chapters all over the world of people who kind of tune in to see what she does. And her classes are about kind of compassionately listening to people. And we did a drawing exercise in the class. We had people do a 2-minute drawing exercise, and then they had to talk about how they felt about it. They had to meditate on how they felt about it, what kind of issues creativity brought up for them, how doing the drawing exercise. And then people talked about it with each other, what this brought up. Oh, and then we applied it to what's a struggle you're having lately, and can creativity help you, right, in some way, kind of with that struggle. And it was interesting to hear how much creativity people had, how many issues people had with creativity, number one. And number two, how joyful they all felt when they were finally kind of able to start talking about it and see themselves as creative, right? I mean, creative isn't just making a painting or a drawing or a sculpture. It's like how you think, right? It's a way of thinking. And so we were just talking about how those things happen. I don't know, I think that's interesting. I think this happens a lot in class, is the creative process spurs other things, how we think about other things. It was neat. Nobody, I would say there was maybe one artist in the class. There was nobody who really did art, but whew, everybody wants to. I kind of decided that my stem was too big. So you see how I'm kind of going over it with a little bit of, I'm going over my stem and kind of cutting it back with background color. And this is all being done with oil paint, so nothing is dry yet. So I'm having it's an interesting, I'm very used to being able to just like, whip through this process. It's interesting to see what happens when when my paint is not drying as quickly as I would like it to. Sometimes I kind of like the result. Something about it is interesting to me. We do this result. And by the way, that dark color of the 3 primaries that you mixed, red, yellow, and blue, that you made down here, you can add white to it, kind of create a shadow that's lighter. Now, can you see, Scarlett, that I totally made that too dark compared to the shadow that is? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go right in, get a bunch of white and just blend it right in there. Even so, it still may not be light enough. I might have to go in again. I think it went up too high. So now I'm going to go in with my yellow here. My gloppy yellow, which slid down the page because there's so much linseed oil in it. Ah, don't do that. I'm going to grab more yellow. See how I can go in kind of right over? Even though my paint is still wet. Going right over. Here I am in this situation. I don't want to leave a white space between my background and the apple. So instead, I'm going to load my brush with background color and do this, right? So I can get close and create that hard edge without leaving the white. Notice I just took my finger to kind of blend a little. You can do that. If you do that, though, I warn you, you might terrify your massage therapist when you walk in with an arm that looks like this. Yeah, like, he said to me, oh, after this was after Francesca, our lesson, like right after our lesson on Thursday, I went in and I had red paint. It absolutely looked like somebody had slashed me. He picked up my arm and was just staring at it like, what? Guys, I'm going to make a very quick cup of coffee. I will be right back, but I'm here. Need me. I love the meditative space that everybody seems to be in. Very nice. And Leslie, because you're interested in working with the gesso and the yellow and black, the sort of cadmium red base, would you like me to send you a couple of base layers and final paintings so you can see?
Yes, that would be great.
Let me see if I can do that now. Let me see if I've got something here. Oh, yeah, I thought you'd get a kick out of it. So here. I look at these bases as very loose. Come on, there's a base. Okay. Here we go. All right, so here's a base of a 24 by 48 I just finished recently. It looks like this. And I actually have a couple of stages, so I can show you how the paintings look, the colors look layered on top.
Yeah. And that's on black canvas, right?
It's on black gesso canvas with cadmium red and cadmium yellow as the base. Can you see how loose it is?
Yes.
And then look at what happens. I actually have a couple pictures of, I just have to get back to them, of this at the sort of beginning stages when I was just starting to add color. No, wait.
Yeah.
No. Wait. Like here's one where you can kind of see colors starting to be added on top. Look.
Yeah.
Now, those final, this base really seems to support a very vibrant painting, and it doesn't really matter what you put on top. Do you know who used to paint like this? Maybe she still does. PM Shore.
Yeah.
PM Shore. You know how vibrant her cityscapes always were? Here's another sort of step in that process. And the final is here.
And that's oil, right, Leah?
Oh, no, it's all acrylic. But
Oh, cool.
it works the same as oil. It works the same.
Yeah.
The only reason I work in acrylic is that, because I don't really work any different, is that I can work faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to produce more quickly, because otherwise I cannot make a living.
Oh, Diane's pieces look so beautiful. Your pieces in Diane's kitchen, I mean.
Oh my God, I feel like every time she posts a picture, they're there.
I know, she's crazy for those. It's just amazing. It's like you guys collaborated on the kitchen and the paintings together.
It's so crazy. Yes, it's so crazy. And it totally didn't happen that way, but isn't that amazing? Right.
Yeah.
Here's the final on that one. So you can just see at the end kind of where it goes to. If you look really closely at this painting, you'll see little bits of red peeking through. I let it come through in some areas. But most,
oh yeah, my God. It's amazing how you just do that dark to light. That's amazing.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Beautiful though. I love that blue.
The blues look great over red. So you remember how we were talking about these complements, right? And how when you put them next to each other, they pop.
Yeah.
Put a complement, when you lay down a complement like a red, and then you let it dry and you put green on top of it, it also pops, but more subtly.
Right.
Because they don't mix together, so you don't get that, neutralized version. You just get this powerful like green that comes forward. So it's a really nice way. I think your paintings, like I could totally see you doing a figure. That method. And
Yes.
we're going to talk more, you guys, about bases, and we're going to practice more bases as we get sort of out of like brush strokes and color.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to spend time. Oh, there you go. Much
Yeah,
better.
it's better.
Much better.
Yeah.
I like your edge on this side.
Yeah.
So now I would like darken a little bit here.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Up that and notice and clean up. This down here is a much stronger, sharper, like
Right.
part.
Yeah.
So you could switch your brush over to something more pointy for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Like over here, like something here that's smaller that you can manipulate and control a little bit more. Oh, I like the and also this is just a technical point, Leslie.
Yeah.
Notice that this is more of flat. It doesn't really dip. It doesn't curve so much.
Okay. Yes, I see it.
So
Yeah.
correct that shape as well. And I think you're going to be really happy with this.
Okay.
But I love the blending. It's beautiful. This part
Thank
right
you.
here is yummy. I mean, it makes me want to bite into it. And I don't even think it's, I know it's not real.
Do you know, I haven't had an apple for almost 20 years. I'm allergic to them now. Raw apples.
Oh, that's awful.
I know I can eat them cooked, but I can't. As I got into my 40s, well, it's been about 15 years. I started getting all these weird food allergies.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, I always had an issue with hazelnuts, but then like it was almonds and then plums, peaches, Bing cherries, snap peas, walnut. I mean, it's just crazy.
It's ridiculous. All the organ things, and B, all the good things. It's not
all the
like
good things. I know.
Why aren't you allergic to like sugar or cheese or something?
Well,
But
I probably am. I just don't care as much. They don't cause anaphylaxis, right? Which is the itch in the throat. And I got really scared. And my doctor's like, yeah, you should probably not eat those. But I don't have a pen, but I do have like a steroid, the pill, because once I ate this salad that had walnuts in it, my entire body broke out in hives. It's weird.
ooh, Rebecca, that's starting to look yummy. I want to bite into that apple. So I would say very nice, Scarlett. Ah, you guys, these are great. Lovely. What do I want to, what would I say? All right, so Rebecca, maybe, do you have any cadmium red, Rebecca?
I do, yeah.
You might want to mix a little cadmium red with your pink to kind of redden a little bit on this side and do another layer. Pat, beautiful. Beautiful.
On the lighter side, you mean?
On the lighter side, yeah. So it's not
Nice.
quite so bright. It's a little bit more, but I like it.
Okay.
Scarlet, gorgeous, wonderful blending. Absolutely wonderful. The only thing I'd have you do is add a little bit of the, and you can totally do this at any point, add a little bit of a light edge. I don't have mine in currently. Right? A little bit of a lighter edge here, because that's the reflected edge. In the darkest part of the shadow, right before the subject turns around, there's always a kind of reflected edge in a rounded object. There's a reflected edge. So that's too harsh, right? Where I just laid it down. So you want to just like do slightly lighter there. Beautiful, beautiful blending.
Thank you. Yeah, I forgot because I had like lightened up the other part, but I forgot about that edge.
Yep. And Pat, I love your blending. It's gorgeous. I'm going to say your apple looks a little bit more like a crab apple. It's kind of too tall and skinny. So you want to bring it out a little bit.
Okay.
On the side by taking red and blending it out. See how it's a little bit like if I were to take, it's a little bit more like that shape. And it should be wider at the top and narrower at the bottom.
Okay.
but I like it. The blending is beautiful. Great work, you guys. This is wonderful. So we have an hour left. So your option is to work on this some more. Or if you have a project you want to work on, you can get started on it. If you wanted to, you could try doing it the opposite. You could try doing a green apple and mixing just to see how it worked. And with the same shape, and in fact, I might even have, a picture of a green apple if anybody wanted to try it. In which case you'd be using more green and yellow and then adding touches of red to mix your shadow. So let me see here. I did have it. I downloaded it. You have options. It's like whatever you want to do, let me know. We've got an hour. You could work on anything on it. And Pat, maybe you want to finish up. I say you're so close to finishing that. You're so close to finishing that piece, your owl. Maybe we should just finish it.
Okay.
It's really close.
For some reason, I'm more picky about this because it's for Charlotte. I don't want her to judge me badly. Not that she would.
Not that she would. All right. I'm printing out a copy of this, these green apples. So if you wanted to, you could try the same thing, but more green and yellow. I'm not going to walk you through that. I want you guys to just try it, although I'm happy to help you as you go through it. I think everybody's got the gist of this exercise. And for those of you who did the spheres last year, isn't it more fun than doing the spheres?
It is.
It's just more fun. You're more sort of incentivized to finish it. I think a lot of, like going to the gym and all these other things. I think a lot of what we do is we just set up, we try to set up something that, some things that will make it easier for us to finish. And I think one of those things is having the satisfaction of actually making something that looks real. So if any of you want to, here's a green apple. You can try it with the green apple if you would like. So yeah, for your next hour. I like a 3 hour. I don't do this is the only 3 hour class I do because I think we only really can afford ourselves that kind of time on Sundays. But I like a 3 hour class because it kind of pushes you to like push yourself beyond a little bit, beyond our normal, like you might be a little tired, you might be a little hungry. It's kind of good to push yourself a little bit when you can. To see what happens when you're kind of in the flow. And sometimes you'll find that little push gets you farther. We're exploring the idea of pushing our comfort zone. And that has many aspects to it. We've talked about some of them today, right? Our ideas about paint, our ideas about supplies, our ideas about worthiness around creativity, right? Like our habits, all of these things like play into it. I myself am kind of one of those people who needs to like put myself in situations where I have no choice but to finish. I don't know if you guys are like this. So for example, in February, I'm being flown to New Jersey to paint an 8-foot painting that at the end of the 10 days is going to be unveiled at a cocktail party. So it has to be done. It has to be done. People are like, can you do that? I'm like, well, I guess I better.
You're deadline driven. Yeah.
So I tend to throw myself into situations where like it's kind of, but it's stressful. I won't lie, that's stressful. But it helps me get stuff done, you know. Otherwise I fuck around too much.
Which
Which
um,
which series?
which for I don't have the right word, but when you're doing it fast like that on a deadline, or when you're doing it slow, which are you most happy with the result?
I love both.
You love both?
I love both. I just get more done.
Is it wilder with the deadline one?
Oh, that's a really good question. Probably I am a little wilder because I have to be. I have to
Yeah.
push a little harder. And that's when I started moving to acrylic only, because I was like, for the amount of inventory I need to create to be able to make a living doing this, it's a lot of inventory. I have to make a lot of paintings in all different sizes and all different ranges. Leslie, those paintings that, you know, are in, I've done a variation of those paintings that are in Dai's kitchen that are bigger, right?
Right,
Like,
right, yes.
Because
That whole
those
series.
right, they sell, and I need to have them. So I just
To
find
sell them, right? Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, I guess like sometimes I'll go back over something that if it doesn't sell right away, I'll go back over it and maybe tweak it a bit. But most of the time I'm like, yeah, I kind of like the craziness of it because I'm pushing myself so hard to get the thing done. But that doesn't work for everybody. That is not something I would necessarily, although sometimes a deadline helps.
Do you think I would do better practicing abstract if I gave myself a 5-minute limit?
I think you should follow those abstract classes and figure
Okay,
out.
I'll do
There's all
that.
kinds of tips. I mean, literally, there are 6 months of abstract classes. I would just jump in on them.
I actually took the first one, so I'll go back and then.
I mean, I just sent the link through the thread, so the entire playlist is there on that link. You just have to click one, and they all show up.
Leah, you know what I think I was able to register? I think I have classes left over from that.
I didn't see them, but
Oh, okay.
Well, no,
that's what I thought it was.
Literally, I can't figure it out. I'll go look, Leslie, because I should be listening.
Well,
But
I need to pay you.
no, not for this class. So
Oh, okay.
Charlotte, you have a pass, so I'm just going to add an extra class to your pass. So
Okay.
anyway, you're not paying for this. Pat, I'm going to give you a free class. Rebecca, you get a free class. So if you want to come in any class, right? It doesn't have to be mine, but you'll get a free class. So if you buy a pass, I'll just put it on the end. Yeah, no, it gave me something, Leslie, that I have never seen before. So I don't know what happened.
Ooh.
How did this registration even take place? So I'm actually going to go in and look right now because I can look. You're right. You might still have things left, but it didn't tick one off. So, all right. Yum, yum, yum. This is looking good.
Yeah, it's better.
It's coming. I love it.
I'm gonna let it dry a little bit, I think.
Yep.
Come
And
back to
that
it.
helps. It's actually good to get up and take a stretch, get yourself some coffee. Like,
Yeah, I need to do that. My back's starting to bother me.
yeah, get up, get a stretch, use the restroom, get a cup of tea or coffee, grab a piece of chocolate. I don't know.
I really
Whatever.
like the yellow side and the like blue purples on the other side. It gives it kind of like a rainbowy look, or like
I know. I think that's really
it's
pretty.
almost like the little color wheel a little bit, just like
Ah,
And by the way, Scarlett, I want to commend you. You got in there and you used a lot of paint. I'm impressed, right?
Oh.
You've got lovely layers on that painting, which is why that apple looks so real and biteable. Like,
I'm good student, but I like did all my like practice
on.
and the apple on the same thing because I was just
Can I pop that up? Hold that up again. I love that. Look at this, you guys. Oh, it's like process.
yeah. So
That's
it's kind
beautiful.
of like here's
It's
what,
nice.
what we're working on today.
I think you should save it just like
Very
that.
nice.
I think you should hang it. I love
I don't have palette paper yet. Like I haven't gotten palette paper, but I do have some canvases. So I'm like, well, this is what I got.
this
And
is what you get. This is what we got.
I can always paint over it later if I want to. So
Well, that canvas paper really comes in handy when we're doing one of these.
yeah, I gotta get
Yeah, because it's like, yep. And you'll notice there's not, oh, beautiful, Pat. Oh, look at the yumminess of the red on the right side. It's just yum.
Thank you.
Now,
Yum,
the
yum.
other thing I'd have you fix, I mean, from a drawing perspective that I want you to pay attention to is that the top of this apple it doesn't come up in a little, it actually, here, I'm going to show it to you close so you really see what's happening. It's a yellow that kind of goes, it's a flat top. See?
Oh, it certainly is.
There.
Okay, I'll just bring the yellow in closer.
Yeah, just bring the yellow over, make sure not to, remember, this is a kind of perspective issue. These are beautiful, you guys. They're just, I mean, they're delicious. It's funny, I posted on Instagram the acrylic demo that I did because I liked it. And Scarlett, it was just like yours. It had all the, squares on the bottom and the blah, blah, blah. And people were freaking out about it. Like, oh my God, that's the best apple I've ever seen, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, because there's something about so number one, if your blending is good, you are creating a feeling of realness, right? A sense of 3 dimensions into. Oh, Rebecca, lovely.
Thank you.
Lovely. I want to bite it.
Thank you.
I think everybody, why don't you, I'm gonna pull this down for just a second. I can put it back up if you want me to. Everybody hold them up just so we can see how they look. It's one thing to see it on the thread. It's another thing to see them kind of, yeah.
Get all those good apples. Make me want to go eat an apple.
Fabulous,
Yeah.
Francesca. So Francesca, oh, gorgeous.
Hey, how do you like them apples?
How do you like that? Hey, Francesca, my question is, was it easier the second time? Yeah, much easier the second time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the blending was easier. Yeah,
Okay.
and I use more paint, so I had the same problem, and I was encouraged to use more paint.
So this is good. This also shows us that as we start out, like there's so many things we don't know, right? So as you're having these experiences, you're laying stuff down. I have this green apple up here, by the way, if anybody wants to paint it. Or you can just keep working on yours, or you can, play around, or right. Like what I think is really interesting is everybody here had a very successful result, right?
Yeah.
There was nobody here who did not have a successful result, even if it started out a little awkward, and then doing it again is even better. So there is a acrylic painting class in which I'm demonstrating in acrylic on Thursday mornings. And if people wanted to do that, you're welcome to. Not for Francesca, it's not Thursday morning, but for us in the Northwest, it is Thursday morning. And it'll often be the same thing. And by the way, if you can't make that, but you want to try it, it'll be recorded and on the YouTube list. So all of these classes are going to be recorded. Oh yes, and I got distracted because I was looking at all your beautiful work. I was going to look, Leslie, I'm going to look for you. I think you're right. I think you do have a subscription, and it's just been a while. So I'm going to.
Yeah, well, I had one before, yeah.
Yeah. So let's look and see how many, but that depth, yep, there it is. All right. Yeah, you have 3 left. And
Oh, sweet, okay.
now you
Well,
have,
I can go in and get more,
no, just use these up. So now you have,
Okay. Do
now
that
you have
first.
4.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So maybe that's what happened. Your art, but it should, well, anyway, I don't know. So I just went in and added to everybody I could an extra class. I want to make sure I did that. Of course.
I'll be back.
Scarlett, yes, ma'am. I'm pretty sure I did. I'm gonna look at it anyway. So I really want you guys to be encouraged to do that. I want to thank you really for supporting what I do. Because without you, I couldn't do it. So it's very important. So whatever I can do, I'll stand on my head to sell you art classes.
Well, I want to say thank you as well, because similar to going to an exercise class where it's hard to actually do it unless you have a formalized setting.
Yes.
I feel similar about exercise classes, and I also feel that way about the art class too. And like, I really appreciate doing like the exercises too, because I think we've discussed before, but I just feel less precious about what it is that I'm doing, because I'm like, oh, this is an exercise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, sure, I don't care exactly what shape it is, or like,
Yes.
I'll just add a little bit more paint, or I'll try this, I'll try that, and I just don't feel as worried about doing it right.
I totally get that. Like, you don't feel worried about ruining it, right?
Mhm.
That was
Yeah,
the
you're
hardest
like,
thing
this
for
is
me. And that really
terrible.
was the best thing of
Absolutely.
Karista's class. Yeah.
Yes, you need to be able to ruin it. That's true. Actually, the abstract class is what's really great about them. You do a lot of editing with white. So you'll lay a bunch of stuff down and then you'll pull areas out with white. So you leave only the stuff that you like the best. So Pat, well, I'll tell Pat when she gets back. That was actually the thing I took away. You're right, Leslie. That was the thing I took away from Karista's classes, is all of the editing that you can do to tone it down, to take things out that you don't like. You know, it's kind of like painting representationally, except that you have a little bit more control over the decisions that you're making. They're a little bit more conscious.
Right.
Because you don't have a figurative object, so you're trying to play with balance.
Yes.
What is this composition balance? You know, Rebecca, you might like them too. You might.
Yeah, I took her first couple classes, but I had a hard time because she did a lot of talking and I was just dying to do something, so I didn't go anymore. But maybe they changed.
Well, you know, if you look at the recording, you could just zip through the stuff where she's talking.
Yeah, I could do that because I was just had, ants in my pants wanting to do something.
Get in there and do.
She was really, she had tons of good information, but I was too impatient.
Yeah.
But I'll try it because that's what I like is abstract art. So.
Yeah, and I think in terms of balancing compositions, that's probably, you would find, I mean, you have a lot of ideas coming out in your work, right? I don't think you have to fight that. They just come out.
Yeah.
So it's more about the editing of them, right? Like, how do I have areas of my canvas where the painting rests? And how do I
Yeah, I have a hard time with that.
Go forward. Yeah, your stuff is very like,
it's packed full.
It's packed full. So what would happen if you like started taking a white swipe and going through in a few places? And that's the interesting, if you're working in acrylic, it's very quick and easy, right? You can just like pop over it. And I assume you don't want to work in oil because of the stuff, right? Like
yeah, I can't do the chemicals. So
also, I don't think it fits your style of work. I think you work very quickly. And I think, you want to be able to layer more on top. And that's what I'm finding with my own practice, is that I want to move fast. I want to jump in there and fix whatever it is that's broken. And if it's dry in 5 minutes, then I can do that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to take a look. I have a hard time using white because I like color. So
White's
it's
a
like,
color.
I know, but it's like I want a bright color. So if there's white there, I want to fill it with something else.
Right.
So I have a really tough time leaving any white spaces.
I get it.
even though I try sometimes. But
I get it. It's hard, and you have a strong sense of what you want to do. So you have to pick and choose what's going to work for you.
yeah,
You have to
I'm
pick
trying to try different things, but it's hard. Here, I'm gonna send you my last
gotta
one.
find-
I didn't do a lot of artwork this year, but I liked this one, but it's probably way too busy for you. Let's see. Let me send it to you.
I mean, it's not about, I love your work, Rebecca. So it's not
Well,
about
thank you.
way too busy.
Oh, I love that.
I mean,
So that's the last one.
Beautiful.
See, I made myself use a little bit of white in that one. That was hard.
and that works. It works.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a very distinct process. I mean, so Rebecca, I'm just saying, it's always good if you do a lot of one thing to kind of force yourself to do something that's not so good, right? It just changes things.
Yeah.
And you might
Yeah.
find that that's where it's beautiful. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love your work. So don't I'm not trying to tell you that you have to change it. Maybe you don't want to change it, but it always helps to play around with, well, what if I did this? I have found in my own evolutionary process as a painter that I'm constantly changing things to try and get at the essence of what I'm trying to convey. And sometimes it's based on an idea that I then take in tons of different directions. Sometimes it's based on a material. Sometimes it's based on a technique. But it's always good to kind of, think about and explore and push yourself, just because you might find something that you didn't really. I'm kind of constantly surprised by my paintings. I don't really have great expectations about how they're going to turn out. I'm always like, how's this going to work? I don't know. I have no idea. Half the time I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I need to explore more because you get kind of stuck in a rut, like I'm just doing the same thing over and over. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's good to try different things, that's for
Unless
sure.
you love to do the same thing over and over again, then you should do it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go because I have to go to the grocery store. Doesn't that sound fun?
It does. So
We have no food. I'm finally out of the house, Leah, in Portland.
Yay!
We only got done yesterday. My God.
That's fantastic.
Anyway, we'll have you guys out soon. So now that we're in.
And now you have this nice big studio.
I know the studio's great. The only problem is there's no sink. So I'm gonna figure out some kind of sink system for myself, but we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Great
Little-
class. I loved it. Thank
I'm
you.
so glad. Just keep joining us. Do you know the whole schedule? Have you seen it?
I do. Yeah, I have it. So
So
Yep.
feel free, just use your pass. You've got 4 more classes left. And
okay.
anybody who can't remember their login, just show up and I can go get it on the back end.
Right,
So
yeah.
You don't even have to register. Just like show up and I'll tick you off in the back.
All right. Thanks, Leah. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, Leslie.
Bye.
Ah, this is so exciting.
I have to go as well.
Francesca, thank you for
late.
staying up. What time is
Thank
it?
you.
11 right now?
It's 11.
It's 11
Yeah.
p.m. All right.
Yeah,
Have a great
it's
day at work.
fine. So thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Francesca's in the Art at Work program. So she's a Reuters reporter in Milan,
Ah.
covers business. And it was nice to see her. I mean, I kind of expect a couple people to show up from Europe, but it's late for them. Class starts at 8 o'clock. The one thing I will say that I did change this quarter is that all of the classes during the week start in the US at an after work time. So Monday, there is a class that starts at 5 p.m. our time. It's a beginning drawing class with my friend Lotto. It's a fabulous class, really fun. Tuesday is a watercolor class that starts at 6 p.m. our time. Thursday, there is a figure drawing class that starts at 5 p.m. our time. If you're really up for it, I teach a class at 8 p.m. on Friday nights. That's Saturday for Asia. So it's all Asia people, but I'm like the one group that could jump in, a beginning drawing class. So if you want to jump in on a beginning drawing class on Friday nights, it'll say Saturday beginning drawing class, but really it starts at Friday night. It starts on Friday night at 8 p.m. your time. Saturdays, there's a pastel class. Sundays, Lotto has a class before mine. So there's a lot going on. It's been a pretty great starter week, and it's wonderful to end with you guys. It's just a pleasure.
You said you have another class on Sundays? Is that what
Yeah.
you just said? Oh, you
Yeah,
do?
you might
That's a
really
long
love
day.
that. You might love that class, Rebecca. My friend Lotto teaches who is one of my first art teachers, and he's a good friend, teaches a class called Creating an Artistic Series. So he
Oh, I saw that on the
wherever
website.
you are, and
Yeah.
like connects you. Lotto's knowledge about art history, other artists, he's got a really deep knowledge of a long history of art. So he can look at what you're doing and make a suggestion that might change it. Or he might say you should look at this artist because this artist is doing something similar to what you're doing, right? Or he can sort of direct people. I didn't get a chance to sit in on this class. I just started it and then had to leave, but it looked phenomenal. If you want, I'll add you to the thread. It's he's just a delight. I mean, I can't even tell you. He is a freaking riot. He's from the Republic of Georgia. And he's the one who 15 years ago, when I was still very insecure about my own artistic abilities, we met in Budapest. Cool. I was just starting to teach art, but very kind of shy about it. And he said to me, Leah, one day you go back to the US and you teach Madame Leah's atelier for drawing and painting. And you teach everybody in the US how to draw and paint. No one else in the US will. You will. You will hire me. That's what he said. You will hire me. I will be your best staff man.
And it came true.
It completely came through. I really should call this Madame Leah's drawing and painting atelier studio, except that I'm not that much of a hard ass, but no, 15 years ago, he told me. And at that time I was like, are you fucking kidding? I can't, I barely placed myself. Who knew? Who knew, you guys?
Yeah, who knew?
Well, you did.
Yeah, I guess I did. And he did. Yeah, he did. And I like it because I have one of my teachers whose name is Emma, who is 20. I've been working with since she was 12. Emma's in art school right now in Montana. And absolutely, she is not being taught anything that you guys are being taught. They're not teaching anything about basic drawing, nothing about basic painting. In the US, I'm sure it's Montana's art program. It probably isn't that great, but it's kind of sad to me that none of the basics are being taught.
That's weird. What are they teaching then if they're not teaching the basic stuff?
Voice. I mean, fucking voice. You guys, your voice is coming out of your ears. It's not something you have to teach. Yeah. Voice. What they're really doing is they're encouraging people to do what they already do, which is just do the same thing over and over and over again and not ever explore or expand. Right. So you know how kids will do that. They'll draw the same thing over and over again until they learn how to do it. Totally valid way to learn. And then teens will draw, and girls often draw, boys often draw kind of monstery things. Girls often draw, horses and unicorns, all that stuff. Yeah. They just have them keep doing that, which I think is really weird. I'm like, it's not that it's not valid in its own way, but it's kind of limited just to what they teach themselves. So she says most of them don't know how to draw properly. They can't draw something that's in front of them. They can draw certain things that they practice over and over again, but to put them in front of a figure, can they draw it? She's not sure. Put them in front of an apple, can they draw it? Don't know.
So that's not just part of their training?
No, not in America. not in America.
Huh.
I know it's really weird. That's
Has
why
it always been that way?
yeah, for a long time, since the
Yeah.
60s. Since the 50s. Yep. It has been that way here for a long time. It wasn't that way in Europe. That's why I went to Europe in my 30s to learn all these things. And I met Lado and he helped me like kind of and he helped me kind of speed through it so I could get them, but not be so. I mean, in Europe, the sort of and China and places like that, the problem is it's sort of the opposite. It's too much that and not enough like kind of take it and go with it. So he and I really had a lot of opportunity to kind of develop a speeded up model that sort of included both. You know, like, I don't want you guys to paint like me. You don't have to. I don't expect your paintings to turn out looking like mine. I just want you to learn the techniques so that what you do naturally will just happen.
That's the
Right.
problem I've had, because I've taken a bunch of different online art classes just through Etsy or whatever, and all they do is teach you you're just copying what they're
Copying
doing.
what they're doing.
And so it's like, you're the only one I've ever had that just teaches this stuff, like how to do it.
You know, Starlet, the question you asked at the beginning is a very profoundly important question. You're like, wait a minute, I'm trying to get this and I'm not getting the result that I want, right? Like, there are techniques that work around that idea, but a lot of people will just say, well, that's just how you do it, blah, 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 blah. We like actually try to problem solve here. I feel like voice just comes out. Rebecca, your voice is so clearly in your work. It's not, you don't need to, it just comes out, right? You don't have to.
I don't plan anything. It's all intuitive.
There.
Yeah.
And I'm the
Well,
opposite. I have no voice at all.
You have voice. Everybody has voice.
But
All
there's
of you
a
have
thing
voice.
too, like, I mean, this is true in like music, and I'm sure true in writing and all of the things, is that when you first start out, you do sort of just imitate people.
That's where I feel like I'm at right now.
Like,
I'm
and then-
imitating.
Out of that, you like develop your own voice. But I think it's pretty normal at first to
Copy.
to like learn the technique, or to kind of like emulate somebody's art that you like. But
Even if you do it, you're not going to be able to do it just like them, because you're automatically doing it, right? Like all of you were following pretty closely, but nobody's apple looks the same. They look good, but they don't look the same.
And I also feel like, I mean, I guess like, because I'm 44, like the last time I took classes like this were in high school. I didn't do them in college, but like, I just remember in like theater classes too, they would just tell us like, we're going to teach you the like rules about, blocking, where to stand, how to stand, like there's like certain things that you need to know, but then if you know why those are the rules, then you can also make a choice to break the rule, because it gives you a certain, something else.
What happens?
Similar to like baking or whatever. Like, you need to know why you use the baking soda. You need to know why use the baking powder. You need to know why you're using an egg, and then you can figure out how to not use an egg, because if you can pick something else that does the same thing as the egg, then you can kind of like,
then you become
you can change the recipe. So you can know, right? Okay, well, the spice isn't going to change the chemistry, so I can just change it to a different spice if I want to.
Right.
And that's fine. So, but yeah, like, I think knowing what the techniques are, and then if you decide, well, this technique is going to give me that result, but I'm actually looking for a slightly different results.
Maybe I need to use the baking soda.
Then you can choose to be like, oh, I'm not going to do it that way.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it that way, not because I don't know how to do it. It's because I am trying to like experiment with a different kind of result that I want to see.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And Pat, you have a voice. It's very strong. If I look at all your paintings, I know that they are yours. I can tell.
Really?
They're not. Yes, of course. Everybody.
Can you describe it, what it is?
I mean, you have a kind of a softness, there's a sort of a softness about your work.
Hmm.
You tend to be attracted to kind of strong contrasty subjects. There's a certain way, but it's more about like a more detailed than that. It just is how you hold the brush and apply the paint.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can look at more. I mean, I can think about it a little bit more, but I
Yeah.
definitely know you have I mean, yeah, I'd say there's like there's a kind of softness to your work. And where does it come across? Soft is the word I just keep coming back to. A little bit of soft.
To
And
think
I-
about that, soft.
Yeah. Well, you are soft.
I'm soft.
Soft. I know you like to say you're a hard ass, but you're really a big softie. We can't help but, and Rebecca's just like, wow, like out there.
I don't know where it comes
Inside of
from.
Rebecca's brain.
I know. It's just spilling out.
Did we discuss we think it's brain tumor related?
It could be.
Rebecca had the experience of not painting until you had a brain tumor, right?
Well,
Or
I had a brain aneurysm,
a brain aneurysm.
Oh,
and then that was the first surgery, and then they discovered I had a brain tumor. So
oh
that
my
was what.
goodness.
So that's when I took classes from you.
Yeah, you
After
had
that.
just come out of that, and she said it can't like. So it's possible, Rebecca, because I've been reading more about what's actually happening with the brain, that like that there's a blurring of a division somewhere between right and left hemisphere. So
Yeah.
actually, it is changing the way the synapses are firing, the way you're
Yeah.
the way everything's coming out, and it's fascinating. Like, yeah, I mean, so that's why I'm like, it's just there.
Yeah, it's just there.
Don't fight it.
I'm glad it's there.
Don't fight it.
So,
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's like coming
Yeah.
out fully formed. It's
Yeah.
maybe not to be tried at home, folks. Don't try an aneurysm to bring out your like.
So this is the weirdest. I just had the power outage. I had a power outage and I still am online with you guys. I don't know how that's happening.
How is that? That's fascinating. Well, good. I know.
Everything is dark around me and my computer and my internet is still going.
Yeah, our power was out almost the whole class. So we have a generator though, so it just went back
good
on
for
a
you.
little bit ago. You have to have a generator work out here. It goes out
Rebecca
all the time.
lives in the hills of Washington County. Is that no Columbus
Columbia County, yeah,
County?
the Coast Range.
Yeah. It's wonderful. Oh, Pat, I don't know. I just love it, Pat. I see how that little white dot just kind of pulls you in.
You know, it's funny. It did what I've been trying to do is make the eyes shiny, and it did that.
So it does. You just didn't have that bright, like you don't need very much. It's just a dot.
Mhm.
I think you're done. Honestly, it's a lovely piece. If you want to send me the picture again so I can just look and see if there's light happening on one side. Is there light happening on one side of the bird? Can you see?
Yeah.
So
So do it in a more.
Yeah.
I'll go find it someplace else.
yeah.
I need to log off now, so I've got some visitors. So
I'm happy to see you again.
yeah, it was nice to be back. Hopefully I can become on a regular basis.
Yes. Buy a pass. I'll add an extra lesson.
I will do that. All right. Okay,
Rebecca.
right. Bye, guys.
Here. Let's see. This is really good.
That's completely different.
Isn't it crazy? All you did was like, sometimes it's just a little think. I mean, look at with the apple as well. It's kind of like that. You add that little white reflected light, and then and then you have this subtle, grading from light to medium, dark. And it
Yeah.
doesn't take that much, but all of a sudden it looks alive. Oh, yes. So we should glaze him. We got about 15 minutes. Do you want to do anything else to that, Scarlett, or shall we work on it next
I
time?
mean, sure. I'm gonna,
Sure.
do you take a picture of the color photo? I'll send it.
Yeah. I can immediately tell you, I think you should take orange and glaze with orange because that's complement to blue and it'll add some, yeah. So glaze him orange and
Okay.
then you can start going over the top with the colors that you see. Those orange colors, it's gonna look beautiful over that blue background.
Is there a particular color mix that you would recommend?
I mean, my go-to for orange and red, it's a great color that does either, is burnt sienna. Like burnt sienna can read as either red or orange, depending on like, as a complement. So
Right.
if you got it, but you could also just mix yellow and red and do a glaze that way. So in that case, you do want it to be watery,
Yes.
right? Like through the,
I was here for a
for a
glazing
glazing thing,
episode, but I guess
a glazing.
class where we did the glazing, which was fun because I had not done that before.
Yeah, and it does things, it takes away some work. Sometimes it creates some more, but it's always, and I think it may be appealing to me because I like the unexpected. I like to add an unexpected element into it and go, what is going to happen? Sometimes, right, Diana? It's the only thing you need to do. Diana's
Well,
laughing.
you know me, I'm not a big glazing fan.
Circle on everything she does. I'm like,
You're not a glaze fan.
I'm not a glazing fan, but I can glaze part of a painting sometimes.
do it.
I just don't like when things get too unison.
Yeah.
But it helps to have a kind of underlying layer that's more,
Yeah, I guess.
and then you splash on top, right? There's still like a kind of base, but then you use your midtone. Really, what you do is use your midtones. You change your midtones out so that so that you have that variation happening while it still feels cohesive. You want to turn around? Let's see it. We haven't seen it lately.
Oh, I have done nothing. I'm just adjusting. I have to shrink his head even more.
Yeah, that's coming along though. It's coming well. Here, I'm gonna pop it up so we can see it. Definitely that's coming along. Look at you guys how and see how she's moving his eyes down.
Yeah.
Wow.
Look at how the soft edges of the cheek, the cheeks, the skin color are interacting with those hard edges that she's added in where the shadows are a little bit deeper.
Yeah, now, I mean, I will soften the hard lines.
He looks great though. She's really coming along.
It will get there. It's
like
just annoying that
getting there.
that learn how to measure before, but I always do this. I always adjust on the painting. So
this is how you measure.
Yeah.
When you're like Diana and you work really quickly, it does help. You just, and you're able to see. It does help to you might as well just measure on I'm a little bit more like I want to measure beforehand. I will add in one or two
I can totally see that. I can totally see that.
Yeah. I'm more of a measurer.
And it's much better, but it's just what works for me. So
yeah, exactly. So it's like knowing the rules and then knowing what works for you.
Yeah.
There's just yes. And that's why I'm here, because I'm more of a measurer. I can help you with the measuring when you need help. Sometimes you need somebody to help you see it, and it helps to have somebody who's not involved in the painting so much. We've got about 15 minutes left, ladies. Let's see what we can get done.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting a little bit because there's a few little spots that I just finished up that I want to dry before I glaze.
Okay. Yeah, you could just touch it up and then maybe glaze on the next class. So next week we're going to work with painting and orange. So we'll be mixing, which is a little trickier because it's, I think the apple has a very beautiful, it's easy to mix kind of beautiful shadow colors. It's going to be a little bit trickier with the orange. So we're going to have fun with that.
Yeah, you saw I sent you the grapefruit.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I'm looking at the color of it.
Yeah, my oranges aren't very round. They are like,
I like that they're kind of up, but they're so cute. These are Diana's oranges. Here, I'll send them across. So you guys can get a sense of. Here, hold on.
one is a navel and the other one is some other kind of orange.
Yeah, they're both oranges. The color I really like on the left, so we might just do it. And I like the leaves, and I like
I
the
like the
light.
personality of that one on the left. The fact
Yeah,
that
I
it
think
isn't
we're gonna paint that one
round.
on the left. It's not so bad. I bet it smells so good. Oh my God.
They do. It's nice to, I can take a couple of other pictures of the orange if you want the orange.
I want the orange. Take a couple
Okay.
of others, that'd be great. But I mean, I can also use that one. But if you want to just do a couple.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
if you're going to use the leaves, you want a more neutral background, I think.
Yes, that would be great. I think it would be nice to have the leaves, just to have a little bit more. Because the orange is too much like a spherish object, and it won't be as fun if we don't have something that makes it a little bit more sexy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fix.
And it looks like you got your electricity back.
Yeah.
That was weird.
It was totally weird.
Now that time of year where electricity gets a little spotty in places.
But having a generator is great, but that's really expensive, isn't it?
Yeah. Rebecca lives in a really like rural place. She needs it.
She has horses.
Yeah, there's just no way around it.
Yeah, I guess my next step will be to get batteries for my solar, and then that's the same thing. That does the same thing as a generator.
It's kind of rainy and blowy here.
Yeah, it started to rain again here. I mean, it's
Oh my God, you guys are-
yesterday it never stopped. I should not complain about rain though. We were in a severe drought a week ago.
Oh. Where are you, Diana?
Los Angeles.
Okay.
She's on a ranch. She's in the sort of ranch country outside
Yeah.
LA Central.
Yeah.
And she has this garden, an acre with like 100 or 200 trees, all different fruit trees, which she's planted over the last 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I have a lot of
Peaches, kumquats, apples, peaches.
I don't have apples.
Oh, I thought you
Don't
had
have
apples.
Nope.
Okay,
Everything.
so what do you have? So those the oranges that you just posted pictures of are from your trees?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
So-
I have several different orange trees. I have grapefruit, lemon, lime, kumquat. I have a lot of citrus trees. I have a lot
Don't
of.
you have guava? I thought you had guava.
Yeah, I
too.
have guava. Guava, I have different type of guavas. I probably have like maybe 10, 15 guava trees.
Mhm.
And I have a lot, I have olive trees.
Mm.
I have persimmon,
Oh yeah, persimmons, right? Exactly.
figs.
Love figs.
Yeah. And I do have peaches and plums and apricot.
And you've planted them all, haven't you?
Yeah, I planted all of them. And I just planted, they're gonna be a while. I just planted like 6 dragon fruit trees, but you know, it's gonna take a while till I get dragon fruit.
There's
But in 10 years, maybe.
there's a dragon fruit drink at Starbucks that is made. I got so much sugar in it. It's kind of shocking.
I love dragon fruit. And I have avocado, but the avocado doesn't fare so well where I am because it gets too hot in the summer. So it's some years it's good and others not.